for them, Nico, out of the Premier League and out of the Champions League? We're seeing their gap narrow at the top of the Premier League table. You seem like you've got a sure answer.
No, I don't. You don't choose a priority if you're Arsenal.
Oh, okay.
You play every game to win all the trophies available to you at this point. You're not Wigan Athletic. You're not Nottingham Forest, right, where you're in a relegation battle, and you're in the Europa League where priority is save yourself from relegation. You're one of the best teams, one of the deepest in Europe, if not the best in both categories. It's not about choosing which tournament is your favorite. It's about competing week in, week out, at your best, and try to win both trophies, simply put.
I kind of look at it a little bit differently. Almost like Liverpool a few years ago. Remember, they were going to a Champions League final, and their owner was asked, John Henry was asked about what's more important right now. He said, we want to win the Premier League. They didn't do it till the following year, right, which was to their credit. Mm-hmm. But I think if you were Man City and you've won how many, 5 out of 6 years, right, or 5 out of 7 years Premier League, then you would absolutely say Champions League. I think if you ask Arsenal fans, and I don't know, I haven't asked Arsenal fans, I'm guessing, they would say we have to win the Premier League.
I think that's a different question, though. And John Henry probably said Premier League because a year before that he had won the Champions League, right?
No. This was before the Champions League.
Before both of them?
Yeah, before Champions League.
The club historically had won Champions Leagues before, though. I think maybe the fans are thinking, well, there's sort of a build. You build towards winning the Champions League, especially for a club like Arsenal who've never won it before. We have to win the Premier League first. That's the Premier League is our next step. We've been close. We finished second. So the Premier League is our next step. But I completely agree with you, where it is not a matter of prioritization. They have enough of a squad to go and win both. They just finished with 8 wins from 8 from the league phase. Their path, and we'll get to their path in a second, could potentially be fairly straightforward to get to at least the quarterfinal, the semifinal.
Let's not forget,
you're playing one of the big teams.
Arsenal won the semifinal of the Champions League last season.
Yeah.
They were close to making the final.
Yeah.
I just think it really comes down to the weight. How long it has been since they won the Premier League that the fans, that's all they're thinking about.
Okay, when was the last time they won the Champions League?
I mean, they've never won it, but like I said, it is about that step. It's about, let's take this step first, and then once you're Premier League champions, then we'll worry about being Champions League champions.
I think prioritizing is a question for Mikel Arteta. And I think in his mind, you take it game by game.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right?
Of course you do.
And then what the fans want is a different question. I think the fans overwhelmingly, if you told them this one or this one, they would say Prem. But Mikel Arteta, you managed to win absolutely everything, right? And Arsenal's at that quality in Europe especially. Let me tell you something. I think it's an off year, both in Europe, both in the Prem. I think there are a lot of clubs who are way off the mark in the Prem. And that's why Arsenal are at the top, despite a couple of questions around the club at the moment. City's in an off year. Villa, all right. I don't think they're going to go neck and neck all the way to the end.
Chelsea aren't there yet.
Chelsea, United, Liverpool, all off. And in Europe, it's like beyond the Premier League, it's between Bayern, Barca, who I don't think have a sustainable way of playing to get into the Champions League final, and
Real Madrid,
and PSG, and I don't even think Real Madrid at this point. I think it's an off year for Real Madrid still, right? So they're there.
Yes.
It's not out of the question, and I think prioritizing is not where Mikel Arteta's mind is at.
And Chris, you mentioned their path to the final, so why don't you walk us through perhaps Arsenal's dream scenario of what that would look like going to the final? Yeah,
I mean, if you look at their sort of current stage right now, you're kind of looking at the 4 teams they could potentially draw. Olympiacos, although we mentioned we tipped them to go through, but honestly, any of those teams, we talked about it. It's Dortmund, Atalanta, Olympiacos, Bayer Leverkusen. You make Arsenal not just favorites, but considerable favorites to get through to the quarterfinal from there. So I think in that knockout round, they'll be absolutely fine. Moving to the quarterfinal, I guess it would be Bodo Glimt in sort of a dream scenario that would take them beating Inter and then beating somebody else as well.
Sporting.
Right. I think
or City, right? The next matchup, if Bodo Glimt does beat Inter, they're playing City or Sporting, but look at the draw.
Yeah.
It could be Bodo Sporting, and who knows? Maybe Bodo does beat Sporting.
Right. And I think in terms of the way that it looks right now, I think Sporting would be the team that you're most looking forward to playing
This would
against.
be their easiest.
I'm really intrigued where you're going next.
By the way, this would be a dream for Bodo as well. This would be their dream scenario.
Right. I mean, I guess. Yeah. Playing Arsenal is right. Yeah. Getting to a Champions League quarterfinal would be incredible. Let's move to the semifinal now. It's Tottenham Hotspur, and this is a very real scenario here because you look at the brackets where they're placed right now. Tottenham could absolutely be sort of drawn into that path, and Tottenham could probably get through at the very least a round of 16 tie. Getting through the quarterfinal would be quite something for them. But Tottenham, first off, would be great for the neutral, be great for all of us watching if it were a North London derby in the semi-final. It's a legitimate possibility, but for Arsenal, I think probably on the basis of who are we better than, I think Arsenal fans.
Right. I think the weaker team in theory that you could have chosen was either like from that part of the bracket was like Club Brugge or Karabag, which is not realistic. Spurs has to beat one of Brugge or Atleti, and then one of like Newcastle, Chelsea, or Barcelona to get to a Champions League semi-final.
Which I think if it were Chelsea or Newcastle, I think it's possible. It's possible that Spurs could get there, but given how they're going in the Premier League, it might not be. And then for the final, you mentioned them already, Nico. We went for Sporting Clube de Portugal because there is still a chance, in theory, I suppose, they can get to the final. But if you are kind of looking at that other half of the bracket, I mean, it could very easily be Bayern. It could be very difficult. But I think this is this is a dream for a reason.
So in this scenario, you've got Bodo Glimt beating Manchester City in the round of 16 of the Champions League.
Well, this would be Arsenal's easiest path, but I think now we're going to be taking a look at their hardest path. Because it could get quite difficult for them.
I think it sort of depends on who of those teams right now in that knockout round that you're thinking of as sort of the strongest. We kind of talked about it sort of being a bit of a coin flip as we get now into that hardest path towards the Champions League final. We've gone for Borussia Dortmund as that team to play in the round of 16. This is largely for me based on pedigree, where you look at a Dortmund side that are obviously finalists from 2 seasons ago, that have the yellow wall behind them, that have some talent. Obviously, it kind of needs to come together under Niko Kovac. So let's move to the quarterfinal now. And the quarterfinal team that we picked is Manchester City, which would be an almighty tie, especially if this Premier League race gets any closer than it is right now. It's 4 points going into this stage. I just knocked over my tea. I apologize for that.
You're so excited.
Good catch, or did you not?
No, it's gone. It's gone. So Manchester City in the midst of this Premier League race would be absolutely extraordinary. Moving now to the semifinal for Arsenal. Again, Barcelona. This is sort of mileage may vary where you think, you mentioned that you don't think Barcelona sort of have that sustainable model, but if there is a club that puts this defense to the test, it certainly would be Barcelona. There also would be the issues for Barcelona from set-piece defense. We saw that in the Champions League semifinal last year against Inter. They gave up 2 goals in the first leg at home against Inter from set pieces. So I think this could potentially be challenging on the basis of the amount of attacking talent that's coming at you, but on the flip side, you can also see a defensive vulnerability here from Barcelona that could be a real problem. And then moving now to the final, we've gone for the 2 seed. And I agree with this. I think this is Bayern Munich. For me, a team that could absolutely go and win it. I would pick them to go and win the Champions League right now if it were up to me. I think Bayern have been sensational this year. The attacking talent that they have is incredibly difficult to stop. I think for Arsenal to potentially negotiate their way through all of this and then play Bayern in a final, I think they'd find it really difficult because this Bayern team, for as good as Arsenal are defensively, would be incredibly difficult to stop. So